have you guys? It has been so incredibly long, but hey, we're back together. If you're catching us for season 2 of the QuadPod, I feel like we only do episodes for the NFL draft. I feel like that's our thing. That's our
It's the
niche.
yearly episode.
Yeah,
The yearly episode, yeah.
But I'm Jeffrey Wills. I'm one of your hosts. I'm here with Mr. Trey Lee.
What is up, guys?
Is married. It's
Married.
crazy. Woo. We're with Josh Warren
What's going on, guys?
and always Trevor Howard.
I'm Mike Tyson.
And so for today's episode, like I said,
I shouldn't say that. That's embarrassing.
That's okay. We're covering the 2021 NFL draft. Before we get started, let's talk about how we did last year. I think that would be a fun way to embarrass ourselves.
We all sucked. It's pretty much the way to define that.
Very
I
much
think
so.
we got the first 4 picks right. Is that right, Trey?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we all sucked last year. Actually, we got the first 3 picks right. So
Nice.
Josh picked 1, and he picked Joe Burrow, of course.
Your boy Joe Burrow.
Trevor
Ooh.
picked 2 and got Chase Young. Jeffrey picked 3 and got Jeff Okudah. And I started off the list of the long list of missing things with I picked Tristan Wirfs to go to the Giants, and they went Andrew Thomas. So that one was wrong. The only pick I got right was Henry Ruggs at 12 to the Raiders. And Trevor got only 2 right, which was the most out of any of us. He picked Justin Jefferson at 22.
Come on. I do want to
That's
say
pretty
though,
bad.
That is really bad. I still got the Noah Ignoghonby pick right.
Yeah,
I he went.
I will give
in the
you.
first.
Yeah, I will give you. I will give you props. And apologize for laughing at you.
Yeah.
For thinking that was a dumb pick, but I will give you props on that one.
Yeah, honestly, Jeffrey wins that one just for that pick because, who even would guess that? Makes no sense.
Yeah, if we're voting on who won last year, Jeffrey wins on that solo pick.
It's
so congratulations, Jeffrey.
Thank you. But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and jump in since this is gonna take a little bit. We're only doing the first round, kind of like we did last year. Starting us off, I believe, is Mr. Trey Lee.
No, it's actually Trevor Howard.
It's Trevor.
Trevor.
Hey, boys. All right. Guys ready for this?
Trevor, who are you going with the first pick of the NFL draft?
Oh, I think you know who Jacksonville's going to take.
Oh, I think we do.
So they played in a national championship a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They have luscious hair. Just got married. It's your boy, Trevor Lawrence.
Oh, very surprising, Trevor.
Yeah, it's
Very
pretty
surprising,
shocking. That's pretty much unless he wants out, he pulls an Eli Manning, I think Trevor Lawrence is gonna go there.
Yeah.
I feel like that's pretty set.
I feel like even though he got hurt last season, he still proved over his college career at Clemson that he can carry the team if he has to. And I think Jacksonville needs somebody to get them out of the bottom of the NFL teams. I think he's the guy to do it for real.
Do y'all think he will be as good as people think he is going to be? Because I've seen comparisons everywhere from Andrew Luck to Peyton Manning. I think he's going to be legit, but
I mean, the fun thing that we're going to get to watch with Jacksonville is we're also going to get to watch a brand new coaching system down there. With Urban Meyer, coming off of, TV networks, he's going back into coaching. And so it's going to be interesting to see, how Urban and Trevor Lawrence work well together. And I mean, if they work together and they do well enough of protecting him, I think he's got the shot of being a really good NFL quarterback.
Yeah, for sure.
I think the Luck comparison is probably really, really solid.
Yeah. All right, we're going pick 2.
Pick 2.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's me. So all right, so got the Jets at 2. You know, Jackson. I mean, the Jets. The New York teams have always sucked when it comes to if they get a quarterback, they always kill that quarterback somehow.
Yeah.
But the Jets need a quarterback desperately. And so I'm going to give them. I'm going to say that they're going to take Zach Wilson from BYU.
Good
Um,
shout.
I think he's the second best quarterback in the draft. I think he beats out the likes of Mac from Alabama and Fields from Ohio State. He's just a more well-rounded quarterback. But I think that's who. I think the Jets go with Zach Wilson. What about you? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think he's going there. I'll be honest, I have not seen much of Zach Wilson. He played Troy earlier this year, so that's about as much as I saw. He just all of a sudden got super hyped up after the. I feel like it was after the season, but I thought this draft was going to be the Trevor Lawrence Justin Fields draft, but now it's really the Trevor Lawrence Zach Wilson draft. So I'm interested to see what New York does with them.
Yeah, I think.
See,
Go ahead, Trev.
oh, you go ahead.
Okay. I don't know. Watching his pro day stuff, just the film from it. I don't know if you guys saw that. He was on his back foot. He threw a 70-yard dime. It's ridiculous. I think they scare me. I don't know. Just because Sam Darnold was such a good player coming out of college, and he was supposed to be their guy for the next decade, essentially. And then he went there and was just doo-doo. And so if they can't get someone to help him out on the offensive front, whether that be O-line or a wide receiver, besides who's over there? Not Rodney Anderson's, or he's in
Carolina.
now?
He's at Robbie Anderson, Carolina. They have Denzel Mims and who else do they have? Golly, I can't even think of a receiver they have.
Yeah, so if they can get support Wilson, I think he'll be good. I don't think he's the Trevor Lawrence kind of air about him where he can make things happen if it's just him. But
And I mean, and you saw that too, like what Trey was saying. The little bit I got to watch of him, he's not Mr. throw the offense on my back and win a game.
yeah,
He has to have weapons around him. And BYU did a good job of the way that they would scheme when it comes to receivers and running backs. And they did a good job of making him look good, but they also had to help make him look good.
yeah.
And that's what the Jets are going to have to do if they want him to be their guy for however long down the road they choose to keep him.
Yeah. And I mean, he led BYU to a good season.
Yeah.
So.
He did,
the thing is, they didn't play anybody. So, I mean, you kind of have to factor that in. Because, I mean, if your best team you play is Coastal Carolina, I mean, you hadn't been tested very much. So, I don't know. I think he's a great quarterback. But, I really could see something happening where they end up kind of juking everybody out and picking, Justin Fields or somebody like that.
Yeah.
They don't want to be in this situation in 2-3 years, similar to how they were with Sam Darnold.
Exactly.
They got a hit with this one. So I think this one may stick. If not, the Jets are in trouble. All right. So the draft truly begins here. And if you would have, I have San Francisco here. They traded with the Miami Dolphins a few weeks ago to move up. And when a team trades up in the draft, they're going for quarterback. And if we would have done this draft a week ago, I would have picked a certain player that was heavily rumored at the time to go to San Francisco. But after this week, looking at some pro day stuff, I got to go Justin Fields from Ohio State.
Okay.
He's the one. Like I said earlier, he was the guy that I thought was going to be the obvious number 2 coming out of the year. Had a great game against Clemson, but had some really rough games against Northwestern and Indiana this year. And I've seen a lot of scouts look at those games and be like, well, those are the ones you have to have really good tape against. So, but I think Justin Fields is a phenomenal athlete. He's got a good frame for a quarterback. He's got some speed, and I think he's obviously durable, as we saw in the Clemson game. But I just think Justin Fields will be a very good quarterback in Kyle Shanahan's system.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I love Mac Jones from, just Cinderella story season that he had. Because I remember at the beginning of the season when we, didn't know if we were going to have football or not, I was hoping that Bryce Young was going to beat him out because I was terrified. But, with what Mac was able to do, but I'm not mad at that, at your choice when it comes to putting him there, because I just don't think Mac fits that system. And if Mac's going to be successful, he's got to have a system that he can thrive in. But Fields is like a Trevor Lawrence, to where he can throw a team on his back and win a game. And that's the kind of system he's going to fit well in. And I think that's what the 49ers need.
It's a run-heavy system over there, so I hesitate to put Mac, because you get in a situation similar to how Garoppolo was over there. And Garoppolo, like, as good as the 49ers were, they were in the Super Bowl last year. But I just never thought it would work, because Garoppolo's this pocket passer who doesn't move similar to Tom Brady, and they need a guy that can move a little bit and do some read option stuff. That's when they're best, I think. So I think Justin Fields really fits here.
Interesting. The three top quarterbacks off the board in the first 3 picks. I don't know if there's been a draft like that. So that, I think we're just setting ourselves up for failure. But that's what we do.
We
right?
probably are, but this is going to be a weird draft.
Yeah, it really is.
Because we've had drafts in the past where we thought that they were. What was the draft a couple of years ago where it was like, you had the quarterbacks from all the schools out west, like you had the USC quarterbacks, the UC. That we thought that was a quarterback heavy draft.
Yeah.
But this draft right here, we've got
Top guys.
You've got 5 quarterbacks that are NFL talent level.
Yeah.
You just don't see that often. And you've got the top 3 teams that have needs. Their number one need, most cases, are quarterback needs. And so now, are we setting ourselves up for failure? Who says that the Jets don't come off the board at 2 and pick an offensive lineman? We know they're not the smartest when it comes to their draft picks.
Yeah, true.
But I don't know. Should be a fun draft.
Dude, we can only go up from here. Like, we
That's
set
facts.
the bar pretty low. So,
that is facts.
Shouldn't feel too bad about it.
If we each get 2 picks for this draft, we already went up.
Exactly.
Trevor's got 1 guaranteed. And Josh, really, you do have 1 guaranteed, because I don't think New York can't not pick Zach Wilson. They traded Sam Darnold, and the writing's on the wall there. It starts with me, it being whether it's going to be Justin Fields or Mac Jones. Hey, Trey Lance could go there. And I really think
that's very true.
This draft is going to be one you're going to see. I really think, and we'll get to this later, I think teams like Chicago and Washington are going to try to trade up, and if they can't, they're going to draft guys like Kyle Trask and Kellen Mond in the first round.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be good.
Right. All right. So the pick that I'm most interested in for the top 4 is Jeffrey's pick.
Mm-hmm.
Jeffrey, you got the Falcons. What do you think they're going to do? Or do you think they hold on to this pick?
Goodness. I think they need to. They were 4-12 last year. They were not. But, watching the Falcons last year, Matt Ryan's, I think Matt Ryan's done. I think he's been not at his peak for a couple of years since probably the Patriots Falcons Super Bowl. I think that really just changed the path his career was on. And Julio declining obviously is going to make his numbers not be as great as they once were. So looking at their depth chart and stuff, I think they need a quarterback, obviously, um, because Ryan's not the hot shot. But they only had one center and one right guard listed um, in their depth chart. So I can see them going with an O lineman because like normally the best O lineman goes in the top five generally. Um, but I think it's a game of, do you want to build for the future, or do you want to try to have another go next year and just see what happens? But you also have to think about the quarterbacks coming up next year. Um, I think this is, if you do want to get a franchise quarterback, this is the year to do it. I'm like you were saying, Josh. So the next three quarterbacks, I don't know. I don't think Mac Jones really fits. I can see him going there. He has the Calvin Ridley connection. Maybe. No, he played for Georgia, didn't he? I'm a silly boy.
Calvin Ridley.
Goodness.
No,
Calvin Ridley
no,
played-
no,
that was
no.
Riley Ridley.
No, that was Riley. No, I don't think
Okay,
Mac
that was
was.
it.
I don't think. Yeah, no, they had the connection when it comes to Tuscaloosa. I just
The Bama.
can't remember. Yeah,
If it was
they've
there.
got that connection. Yeah.
Well, and then I didn't watch Trey Lance, if I'm being honest with you guys, but I know Carson Wentz came out of the same university, and he went on to lead the Eagles to a Super Bowl, even though Nick Foles got to take the final step with them there. And so obviously they produce talent up there. So I can see I went with them going with Trey Lance from North Dakota State.
Okay.
Just to either put pressure on Matt Ryan or for Matt Ryan to like guide him into the next successor of the QB role in Atlanta. What
Okay.
do you guys think about that?
See, to me, it's kind of like the Wilson pick. I mean, he played one game this season and he threw like 3 picks. So I'm like not completely sold on him. I mean, he kind of has the upside as an athlete, kind of like Fields does. But I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of that pick, but I'm not even a huge fan of the Mac going there. So
Yeah.
I think possibly Falcons could either trade up or trade down out of this pick if they're not feeling their guy.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if they're
we'll
going to
see.
trade down, the only team that needs to trade up right now is the Patriots.
Yeah.
And so is there a situation where the Falcons and the Patriots swap and Atlanta falls to 15th and then they get a better look at the board looks different and they start looking at, offensive weapons, or in Atlanta's case, defensive weapons too. I don't know. If they're going to trade with somebody, New England would be the person that I would trade with. But I'm not mad at that pick. I mean, honestly, I don't know a whole lot about Trey Lance from other than what I've heard, and with the way that Atlanta has done in the past couple of years, he seems like he would fit in just well over there.
He's got the arm talent.
Yeah, he's got the arm talent.
I think y'all are hitting the nail on the head about Mac Jones. I didn't even think about him going here. If I think Fields would fit more in Atlanta than anybody, but obviously I took Fields at 3. So, but I think another name that to watch out for if they don't trade is Kyle Pitts. I think they'll go for a heavy duty wide receiver type player to give it some sort of spark. But I think Atlanta trades personally. I think they'll trade down with somebody.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. All right, Trey, you got 5. You got 5.
Trevor has 5.
Oh, I'm sorry, Trevor. You have 5.
Okay, so I'm actually really excited about this pick. So Cincinnati Bengals are up at 5, and I truly believe they're going to take Jamar Chase here. I think they're going to get Burrow his target, have a little reunion down there, the Bayou Bengals. So going from Bayou to Bayou. So I think, I don't know, I think Devontae is a better overall wide receiver, but just in terms of kind of appeasing their like main guy under center, they're going to go Chase at this pick.
I really want this to happen, but for Joe Burrow's sake and his health, They can't not take an O lineman. Their O line is so bad, except for Jonah Williams. They need someone to protect Joe Burrow, or it's gonna be an Andrew Luck situation where he retires or something like that. But I like the pick. I think it's gonna happen personally, but they shouldn't do it. They should wait and try to get another weapon for Burrow later on. They can get Terrace Marshall in the second round.
That's very true. Yeah, I was kind of torn because I'm like, it was either between Chase or Sewell out of Oregon because like he's got to be probably the number one offensive lineman in the draft. And like you said, yeah, they really do need to protect him, but also the Bengals really don't have any weapons at all. So it's kind of like pick your poison right there. So I don't know. I really see them kind of getting him as playmaker.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not mad at that pick. I mean, it makes sense from the fact that, I mean, from the games that we got to watch Burrow play, he had nobody to throw to. But I mean, he's coming off of that like complete reconstruction of his knee.
Yeah.
I think that screams to the Bengals front office, hey, we got to do something to protect this dude if he's going to be worth what we're paying him. And that's where, someone like Sewell comes in from Oregon. But then again, are you going to protect or are you going to try and score points?
Exactly.
And so that's the decision that Cincinnati has to make.
5 offensive players in the first 5 picks.
This is a very offensive-heavy draft. I don't see a defensive player coming off soon. Josh, do you have one at 6?
Yeah, I'm going to keep the trend going when it comes to offense. So Miami is very interestingly built right now. We had the sharing of the quarterback duties between Tua and Fitzmagic, but Fitzmagic is gone. So by all accounts, unless something crazy happens, Tua is the star quarterback that some Miami faithful have been hoping that they were going to get. He's going to be their quarterback. And he needs someone to throw to. I am struggling on which receiver to put here because on the one hand, Devontae is the better route runner. He's the better overall receiver, but when it comes to Waddle, you get speed. You get that ability to, cut real. And I mean, even after the ankle injury, we saw him still be able to run pretty decent routes in the national championship game. But for the sake of making sure that you have someone you can rely on, I'm going to say that the Dolphins take Devontae Smith at 6. I'm going to say that they take someone who is established. Him and Tua have they have that relationship from when they were in Tuscaloosa together. Miami wants some consistency on offense, and I think a Tua Devontae relationship gives them that ability to have that.
Yeah, I love that pick. And like you said about Waddle, I've been banging the drum for Waddle since he came on the field. I still really do believe that Waddle is probably the best receiver. He's just so fast. I mean, you saw in the LSU game, 2019, where he got his head pulled off and still ran it back for a touchdown. I mean, he is an extreme playmaker, and that's really what the Dolphins need. But I agree with you, just in the fact, I mean, you got to give it to the Heisman winner. I mean, you can't just pass on the Heisman winner.
Yeah.
What do y'all think about the concerns with his size? There have been so many people saying, oh, he's too small. Oh, he doesn't weigh enough. And it's crazy because the dude is literally like an elusive nightmare to cover.
Yeah. And I think that helps him and it hurts him. It helps him in the fact in some of these bigger corners that he's going to be facing, if he gets around them, it's over with. He's gone. But if they're trying to do those short, dig routes or crossing routes, he's going to have a hard time getting off tackle. And so that's where the Dolphins are going to have to really dial up that stack, formation, or they try to make sure that they move him. But if we saw this when he played, when he played this year. If he could get behind some of those bigger corners, he's gone. We saw that in the Ohio State game before he got hurt. The first half of the national championship game, if he got behind their best corner and it was over with. Like, he wasn't going to not catch the ball. And so I think there's pros and cons to his size, but I think the pros do outweigh the cons.
This next
You guys, all right.
will be rough.
I'm excited.
Detroit needs everything.
Yeah.
But the one thing they don't need is running back because, they hate Kerryon Johnson, apparently.
Dude, they're totally going to pick another running back. I'm telling you.
He's
Yeah,
no. I think
Trey,
they-
the big question I have for you: are you taking a quarterback?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Really?
You can't get out of golf
Really? Okay.
contract for 2 more years. I think it's 2
Okay.
years. So you wait till next year with maybe Sam Howell, Spencer Rattler, that group of guys. You maybe try to put Goff. Goff went to the Super Bowl a few years ago. On the back of Todd Gurley, but he played well. I don't know what this whole deal with Goff and McVay was, but that came out of nowhere, and all of a sudden he's on the Lions. And he really needs some offensive help. Galladay is gone. He has no receivers. And as much as they need defense, they got defense last year with Akuda. For me, it's between Kyle Pitts and Jalen Waddle, and they picked T.J. Hawkinson a few years ago. And I know Kyle Pitts is not technically a tight end; he's a hybrid guy. I'm going Jalen Waddle here. Jalen Waddle, the 2019 Iron Bowl, watching him still lives in my nightmares. Even though we won, Jalen Waddle tried to win, was going to win that game whether he wanted to or whether his team wanted to or not. Man was wide open all over. And that speed y'all were talking about with him is ridiculous. And I think that's going to translate well to the NFL. And I think he's going to be the start, like the man in Detroit from day one. So I'm going Waddle here. I think he's probably the second best receiver in this class. I think Jamar Chase is really good, but Waddle is up there with him.
Good
I
shot.
I agree with that.
Why not an O lineman, Trey? I've seen a lot of things predicting them to go with Sewell from Oregon.
I can see an O lineman. They don't have they picked the center from Arkansas a few years ago, and you sometimes see teams pick O line a bunch. I feel like there's a team that's always picking O line, but I think it's stable enough to run with right now. Sewell's going to be a generational talent. It's a crime that he hasn't gone so far because he is probably the best tackle or the best offensive lineman to come out of a draft in a long, long time. But I just don't. I think they need help at receiver. They don't have anybody. I think literally their receivers all are gone. So it's one of those needs that's like, okay, you lost Kenny Galladay. You haven't really had a guy since Calvin Johnson retired. So you need to go get a guy that can be a generational talent. And I think Waddle can be that.
Do you think the injuries would put him off from being picked at 7? Or do you think, because if they could go with someone like Megatron, because I could see them, even though Kyle Pitts is more of a hybrid tight end receiver, he is much more of a receiver than a blocker. And so I could see him, if they wanted to relive the Megatron days, going for someone with his size and ability. Maybe.
It could happen. I've been wrong before, as we all know.
Yeah, let me be wrong on the 8th pick right now. Panthers. I'm surprised that Trey, you didn't want to take this one.
Ever since they did Cam dirty, so I know they got the boy Derek Brown, but they did my boy dirty.
Well, they got good old Teddy at the QB, and they just got Sam Darnold from the Jets. which is I think is a good pick because he is still I think a good quarterback. I think you can't judge anybody that goes to the Jets and plays quarterback because you've seen countless or college talents go to the Jets and just be trash. Um, and so I think Carolina, I have a few there. They need an offensive line if they are going to protect Sam Darnold and give him time to do what he can do. Which I think he's. I wouldn't rate him as a top 5 quarterback, but not a bottom 5 for sure. I think he's pretty mediocre, and I think that's where Carolina lives right now, is in that mediocrity. Ever since they let Cam go, but also I could see them going for a wide receiver or a tight end to help out. To help out Sam Darnold, and also a running back because McCaffrey was out for most of last season, and they suffered because of it. I don't think they would go with a running back as important as McCaffrey is. He's one of the few untouchable players in the NFL right now. If they replaced him, they'd just be asking to have the first pick next year. But I'm gonna go with Sewell from Oregon. I think that's the most sensible pick. First O lineman off the board, but I think it's what Carolina needs if they do want to start building a foundation that can be that can blossom into something like their run to the Super Bowl versus the Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking to build with Christian McCaffrey and Bridgewater and all that, you've got to be able to protect those guys, and you've got to be able to open lanes for McCaffrey to run the ball. And I mean, Sewell gives you that opportunity to do that and much more. And so, yeah, I really like that pick.
I
like that
considered
pick too.
Etienne, but because he's similar to McCaffrey, I think he's the best receiving back out of the class, in my opinion. But I just don't think they would put 2 star backs like that.
I like what you were saying. That does McCaffrey a disservice, and that's just asking him to try to go somewhere else.
Yeah,
Kind of like a certain one of your favorite teams, Jeffrey, drafting a quarterback last year when they got the MVP of the league this year.
I'm okay with it. Obviously, we didn't need it, right? But
Yeah, I really like that pick though, but I think he's like best available. Plus, like you said, I mean, you kind of get a new quarterback. So I mean, you're looking to keep him safe. Plus, I mean, McCaffrey's had so many injuries. I mean, you just need somebody to block for you. So I mean, I think you get a guy like that, best available, and he keeps your best star players healthy. So I really like that one. Next pick, let's see, it's the Denver Broncos. Denver honestly needs a lot, and like knowing them, they'd probably go with a quarterback, but I'm not going to pick a quarterback. I mean, I think Drew Lock's the guy, but it feels like every year they're ending up with some like 6'6" quarterback that can throw the ball very far and end up being a bust. But I think they're going to stick with him a little bit longer. So I think for the Broncos pick, I think they're going to try to bolster up their defense a little bit more. And so I have them picking somebody kind of like Micah Parsons out of Penn State. I think just kind of somebody to help with a little more pressure back there to keep the offense from having to stay on the field, just like somebody to complement Von Miller, just so it's not all on his back. So I think Micah Parsons is best available for that kind of pick. So I think he's going to go to Denver.
Really good pick.
That's a really good pick. Oddly surprised that you are okay with the Broncos quarterback situation.
Yeah.
Okay, I think Drew Lock is actually decent. I mean, like he was like the number 1 passer in the SEC for 2 years in a row, wasn't he? I mean, 20.
Yeah, but he was playing in the SEC East when Florida and Georgia were struggling.
I mean, that's very true.
But I mean, yeah, I see where you're coming from. Like, I'm not mad at that pick. I mean, they need somebody there that can do something with that defense.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the biggest thing from watching the few Broncos games that I did was that the middle of their defense was god awful.
Yeah.
I mean, there were just, teams would gash them for 20, 30 yards at a time. And yeah, so I agree with your pick. Don't agree with your assessment of their quarterback room, but I
Yeah. I
agree
mean,
with
that's fair.
I
That's
agree
fair.
with the pick. I agree with the pick.
It's just the thing is about that one. I mean, you don't have that many options, and you can't just keep switching quarterbacks every single
You're right.
draft.
You're
So, I
right.
mean, I just don't really see them going for I just don't really see anybody there. I mean, I feel like they could probably get like more of a late round guy. Kind of, we talked about Kellen Mond. So I think Mond
Yeah.
might be kind of a good late round option for them because I think a lot of people are talking about him being almost like the Dak Prescott of this draft. So that could be a later option for them, but I think they really do need just to build some more on their defense so the offense can at least slowly grind out some points.
Yeah. All right, you guys ready for 10 or any more thoughts on mine?
I don't have anything. Josh, you ready to be Jared
Okay.
Jones?
Yeah, trying to figure out, where Jerry Jones is going to draft from this year. Like, does he decide to go to Cleveland or does he chill on his $200 million yacht again this year in draft? There's a lot of problems going on in Dallas that don't make their way onto the football field. For the simple fact that Jerry Jones has control of what happens in that organization when it comes to a drafting perspective is bad enough. But looking at what hurt the Cowboys the most last season was the inability to stop the passing game. They got tore up in the secondary. And so I've got them taking Patrick Surtain. I think they need somebody on some of those big body receivers that they play that's not afraid to just play down and dirty with those NFL receivers. And I think Surtain gives them that. Prescott's not going anywhere right now. It'll be interesting to see what he looks like coming back from this ankle injury. It'll be interesting to see what happens next season if they don't re-sign some of these receivers that they have. But for all intensive purposes of what they need immediately, they need somebody to help that defense, and Surtain gives them that. He gives them the ability to try to stay in football games.
I like that pick. I've seen that pick a lot. Their secondary got swiped a bunch starting last year with Miami going to get Byron Jones, and I know a lot of their corners have just gotten taken. So you're going to pair up former Alabama teammates Trayvon Diggs and Patrick Surtain. Surtain's a beast. He's a legit ball hawk, and I think he'll do well in that Dallas secondary.
Joe?
The way that he plays secondary to an extent reminds me of Fitzpatrick. Now, Fitzpatrick is a once in a lifetime, I can play any secondary position you put me at. But the way that Surtain is not afraid to just go up after the ball reminds me of Fitzpatrick. And I think that's something that the Cowboys need.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot right there. Then they're kind of addressing a much needed position because, Dallas just gets torched every single game. And Dak Prescott can't really outscore every team in the NFL. So, yeah, it's a good hole to fill.
And you look
Jeffrey, I know
Sorry.
Go ahead, Trey.
Some of the teams in the NFC East, or the NFC West, as some people like to call it, the Giants are loading up at receiver with Galladay, Slayton, Sterling Shepard. Then you got the Eagles, who have no receivers. The Eagles suck. But the Washington football team's got Terry McLaurin, and they went and got Curtis Samuel from the Panthers. They're starting to get some receivers, and Dallas needs to be able to cover those receivers if they want to win their division.
Yeah. Okay, Jeffrey, we've interrupted you like 3 times. So what you got, buddy?
No, you're good. Do you still ride with Zeke? You still think he's the man? After last season, especially, where he was not existent?
I'm going off of what needs the most immediate address. Now, Do I think if boards are going the way they're going, there's going to be a ton of running back talent in the second round. I don't remember off the top of my head where Dallas is in the second round, but if they've got a pretty decent slot in the second round, then I think they can take a running back there. But for all intents and purposes, right now, you've got to build that secondary.
I'm with
But
you.
I see where you're concerned.
I was just raising that question.
No, that was one of the things that I was considering. But no, you got to address that backfield, or you got to address that secondary.
So speaking of NFC least teams, I have the New York Giants. We actually have 3 straight NFC East teams up here: Dallas, New York, and Philly, picking back to back to back. The Giants are interesting because they covered one of the positions I thought that people thought they needed. Actually, I don't think they need it because they had 2 really good receivers in Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton, who was an absolute steal and better than he ever was at Auburn. So go Darius. The there's two guys that are falling down the boards that are 100% not going outside of the top 10. Kyle Pitts and Mac Jones are not making it out. People will trade up for those picks, and I can't pick Kyle Pitts because they have Evan Ingram, who's pretty good. I can't pick Mac Jones because Daniel Jones just got picked a few years ago. So I'm in a predicament here. I think they double down on offensive line again. You want to protect Daniel Jones and whoever else comes after him. So I'm going Rashawn Slater out of Northwestern. His claim to fame is guarding Chase Young very well a few years ago.
Interesting.
And he's got some flexibility. He can play guard. He can play tackle. He could play all over the place. So he's a plug and play guy wherever you need. So I think people have said he's a better prospect than Penei Sewell. So I think he's a good fit here in New York, and I think he would play well here. So what say you?
I think it's a good pick. I think Daniel Jones. I'm trying to look at his stats real quick, but he was not that bad from what I remember. And so I think just sticking with their gun. I don't think they would take Mac. Even though I agree, someone's probably going to trade up for Mac Jones just because he, as unattractive as I think his play style is, he gets the job done arguably better than Trevor Lawrence. I think that was because of the weapons he had around him, of course, but I think Daniel Jones is an adequate quarterback for an adequate football team. And kind of like with the Panthers, I think if they do want to build somewhere, Daniel Jones is young, and the receiving core is getting stronger. So I agree. I think an O-line pick is really good, and I do agree that I think Slater's probably the best one still. I know Sewell's the only one we picked, but I think Slater's second best.
Mm-hmm. I was going Parsons all the way until Trevor took him up at 9. That was they need linebacker help, and it's a little early for the guy out of Notre Dame, I think, but I think they could draft him. But yeah. So Jeffrey, finish up our trio of NFC East teams.
Okay. The Eagles up at 12. Looking at them, Jalen, they've made him the number one. He's their guy for the next couple seasons at least. And so I was thinking, let's look at what they struggled in last year. They were like 15th best in passing yards against. So some cornerback cover would be nice, but I also think some more weapons on the offensive front. So Zach Ertz doesn't have to carry literally half of the receptions that the Eagles get, but also Greg Ward and Jalen Rieger. I think if you add someone like Zach Ertz, who really isn't a blocking tight end, I think Kyle Pitts would be a steal right here for them. I think he has the size, the versatility to if Zach Ertz decides to leave Philly. I think he would be a good little replacement for him. I think he covers the same facilities that Zach Ertz does. I think imagine Ertz and Pitts on either side of the offensive line, both going up for a ball. I think that would be horrifying for the rest of the league, especially if Dallas don't plug in that cornerback role. But yeah,
I like that pick. I think you can, even if he doesn't play tight end, you can play him. You play him at your outside receiver.
yeah,
I really think he's not going to. A few years down the line, we're going to be talking about Kyle Pitts, the receiver, not Kyle Pitts, the tight end. While tight ends have kind of transcended the league with guys like Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, Kittle, I think Pitts is more of a receiver because those three guys I just mentioned are great blockers. And Kyle Pitts is a good blocker, but I think you're really going to get the most out of him from being an outside guy.
yeah.
Yeah, with kind of the NFL is kind of transitioning to be kind of like college more. So it's starting to feel like an arms race for like just big targets for your quarterback. So I think that's a really good pick, especially with a young guy like Hurts starting. So you kind of want to give him kind of like a kind of a safety valve to go to. So I think Pitts is like a really good pick right there because I mean he's just a big bodied guy with big hands. I mean super fast. I mean so I think that's a great pick.
I love that pick just for the fact of, like what Trevor said. Uh the Eagles are going to look a lot different because, obviously Hurts is going to be under center this year, and he's Hurts is a good quarterback, but he can get nervous really easily. And giving him a safety valve that not only he can throw to, but that can also block for him. If we all know Hurts loves to take off running, and Pitts is also could clear a building out of the way if you asked him to. And so, but yeah, I really like that pick.
All right. So with the 13th pick, the Chargers are there. I really didn't know what to pick for them, but I think they'll probably go offensive line. I mean, it's kind of like they need some more guys to bolster some more protection around Herbert. So I mean, I've got Christian Darrisaw out of Virginia Tech. I don't know much about him, but he's listed as the number 2 guy out of or like on the O line. So I think just a way to bolster the offensive line, just to protect him, keep him from getting hurt as a young guy.
Yeah, they need to learn from the Bengals here and protect their young quarterback because Fields, not Fields. I say Fields. Why did I say Fields? Herbert. That's who I'm thinking about. Herbert. He looked incredible last year, which shocked the heck out of me because I thought he would have been not even the top 3 best quarterbacks from last year's draft, and he was the best one from last year's draft. So protecting him is key because he's their future.
Yeah, it's a protection game for some of these teams of just who can we throw on our offensive line that's going to, not be a blind spot for our quarterback. You guys ready for 14, or y'all got anything else for? All right. So for the Vikings, Vikings need the same help that Los Angeles needs. The Vikings need people on their offensive line. And I don't see the Vikings being willing to pull the trigger on anything big. I mean, I feel like the Vikings are going to try and play it safe. And so I've got the Vikings taking Elijah Tucker from USC for offensive tackle. He's listed as an offensive guard, but he played both out at USC. I didn't get to watch him a lot. He's a good lineman. He's, not special, but he's not trash. And I think that's what Minnesota needs right now. They need somebody who's middle of the pack, can carry their weight, and is not going to get ran over when the blitz comes. And I think that's what he gives. I think that's what he gives the Vikings. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it's hard with offensive linemen to grade people out like that. It's difficult. But I think kind of like with Rashawn Slater, Tucker gives you you can plug him in anywhere. You can kind of play around, and if he fits at guard, he sticks. If he doesn't, you can put him at tackle. So it kind of just works wherever you need him.
Yeah. All right, Trey.
Oh man,
Blow my mind at
don't believe
15.
this to me. Like I kind of expected. I didn't expect this to happen because last week I was going to take Mac Jones at 3, but he fell here. Dadgummit. I don't want to do it.
Don't take him. I'm planning on taking him later. Don't take him. I want him for mine.
I'm taking Mac Jones.
Okay.
There we go.
This is a huge eat crow moment because speaking earlier of the 20, I'm picking 2 of my least favorite Alabama players of all time. I picked Jalen Waddle and I picked Mac Jones. Mac Jones.
Don't let the nightmares get you.
Well, it's not even the nightmares. It was Mac Jones scored 2 touchdowns for Auburn 2 years ago, and so coming out of that season, I was like, dude, Mac Jones is not good. And then went on a freaking tear this last year. I thought, here's a hot take: Mac Jones probably should have won the Heisman this last year. I know he had all the weapons around him. I know.
As a diehard Bama fan, if you gave that trophy to anybody but Devontae Smith, you were hot garbage. If you gave that trophy to anybody but Devontae Smith.
Yeah, I agree with that statement.
And I just, you can't, the dude, I know people I say jokingly, some quarterback that I will not name called him a game manager one time, and then he went and beat his team by like, I don't know, 40. That was my team.
It's a fun game to be at.
Love you, Bo Nix. But Mac Jones, he does more than just game manage. I feel like he can put the game in his hands and he can throw it to the right guys. He makes the right reads. He's learned from those mistakes. He's sat under 2 really good quarterbacks at Alabama with Jalen Hurts and Tua. And I think he's learned a lot from Saban and from Sark. And I think he would fit perfectly in this Belichick system. Tom Brady wasn't the best quarterback. He's not. Mac Jones is a mobile quarterback. So you got a guy that can come in, can learn. I mean, you don't have to play him this year. You can wait under Cam for a year, or you can null and void Cam's contract, which would make me so mad if he did for Mac Jones. But I think Mac Jones here is an easy pick. I think the Patriots could trade up and get him anyway. So I could be technically right on this pick.
Interesting. I think it's interesting. I mean, I personally don't think the Patriots will trade up. I can see him falling more to the Steelers because Big Ben's old. Josh, give me a look. Big Ben is old. I can see them trading up.
Mac Jones won't make it past the football team or the Bears. You've got those 2 in there.
I know, but I'm saying if they traded up, if the Steelers traded up, I could see them doing that.
It's harder to trade up from 15. I mean, it's easier to trade up from 15 than I would say from 24.
Oh, it is for sure. They would have to give up a lot. But if any of these teams see Mac as a potential generational talent, I know we've thrown that term around a lot, but I think they would risk it.
Yeah, I like Mac to the Patriots.
I don't know where Mac is going to land, but he needs to land in a New England style system. He needs to land in an established coaching position. Now, if he doesn't go here, I have also seen stuff where he goes to the Saints
That'd be good.
because with Breeze gone, yes, they have Hill on a contract, and yes, they have Jameis Winston, but neither one of those guys is they're not they're talented, but they're not overly talented. And so wherever Mac goes, if there's a bit like if Mac goes to New England, obviously he's gonna have to beat out Cam Newton. And so it's just wherever Mac goes, he needs to fit that system. Do I think he fits in at New England? Yes. And New England's done a really good job of grabbing a lot of weapons in the offseason. But then again, I don't know if Belichick is wanting to start blanket new with a quarterback. And that's going to be now, then again, we all know that last season Belichick's dog was drafting for him. So there's a good chance that the dog takes Mac. I mean, we just don't know. But I don't know. I like that pick and I don't like that pick. That's the short answer.
I think a receiver would be good, especially with Julian Edelman just retiring a few days ago.
It's a good point.
And he,
Yeah, because there's still some decent receivers on the board. I mean,
Yeah, the big three are gone. Well, I mean, if you consider Pitts a receiver, the big four are gone. The next group up is you got Rashad Bateman, you got Kadarius Toney,
Rondell Moore.
Rondell Moore. He's
Yeah,
gonna be
Rondell Moore.
he's gonna fly. I think he's gonna fly up the boards.
there's a Marshall from LSU. You've still got him too.
He'd be. I think he's a guy that maybe could sneak into the first round.
Yeah.
Shoot, you look at the NFL and right now teams are so desperately trying to replicate what they're doing in Kansas City. I wouldn't be surprised if Anthony Schwartz. I don't see him as a first round pick, obviously, but a second. I don't think he should go in the second round, but I think people would take him just for his speed.
What, Tony?
No, Anthony Schwartz.
Oh, gotcha.
yeah, the only difference between him and Jalen Waddle is Jalen Waddle can catch the ball.
Well, they didn't throw it to him, Jeffrey. Every time we tried to throw it to him, he overthrew the fastest man in college football. But that's for another day. That's for another day.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the 16th pick, if that's good with you guys.
We talked about Mac Jones enough. Let's go.
Yeah. So the Cardinals are there. I think Kyler Murray, solid. He's been doing well. I would say out of the newer quarterbacks, top 3, if not top 2. Behind Patty Mahomes. But they need, I think, a few things. They just got JJ Watt from the Texans. Huge for them on the defensive front. JJ Watt alone.
Yeah, that's massive.
A leader, and he's going to change, I think, their defense, and they're going to be really good on that aspect of defense next year. But I could also see them going with a cornerback helping the defense or a wide receiver, just to give, because Larry Fitzgerald is 95 at this point. He's like 41. He needs to retire. I think, is this his last season? Do you guys know?
I think there's rumors he's supposed to retire this year.
He needs to retire.
Yeah, he's got to. He's like 1,000.
Yeah.
He's so,
Yeah.
but
He's like outlived the double life requirement for a wide receiver in the NFL, and he just keeps attempting to play.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's still there. They're giving it to him, and he's producing. So I'm really in between Rondell Moore and Caleb Farley. But I don't know. I'll go Rondell Moore just to probably be wrong. But the Purdue prospect, I think he's gonna be good in the NFL. He was good in college football. I think because he played for Purdue, he wasn't looked at the same as Jalen Waddle and I'm not saying Devontae Smith because he's a different beast of his own. But of the Waddle, I would say Calvin Ridley even. of that caliber. I think he's going to be good. What's up?
Why not Kadarius Toney from Florida?
I don't know.
Not sold.
I think Trask was really good at making people look good last year.
Okay,
Just because
yeah,
he's
I
an
agree with that.
athlete and he's a talent. But I don't know. I just think Moore is more of an NFL caliber.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
We got to see Rondell Moore up in person, Jeffrey,
We did.
and he didn't do much.
Yeah.
When did
Exactly.
y'all see him?
When
No,
Auburn
no,
played
no,
Purdue,
we're not talking about this. Move on. Go, 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 go. Go on. I hate
what you got for the 17th? Trevor?
Who's next?
Are we done talking about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was like phased out completely.
Quick segue.
Stop listening. Okay, so with the 17th pick, it is the Las Vegas Raiders. So we were talking about Toney, and I was gonna go kind of like really basic and get like an offensive tackle, but I was like, it would actually be really cool to see Toney and Ruggs together as like the speed duo. So I mean, is that crazy for him to go first round like that?
No, because
No.
the Raiders have always valued speed. It's kind of the joke. I don't know. Al Davis, I think, is their old GM, but he literally would draft guys because of speed.
Like
so
the
that's
Legion of
not
Zoom kind of
far-fetched at
thing.
all. What were you saying?
Like the Legion of Zoom, like
Yeah.
Seahawks for Legion of Boom. But so I don't know. I think that's an interesting pick because I think Toney's really good, and I know you're totally right. I think he maybe got made to look good in that offense with that Den Mellon ran it at Florida, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where he lands, but I would actually really like to see him in Las Vegas alongside Ruggs. I mean, that'd be a pretty good duo because I mean he's got kind of like that Tyreek Hill kind of shiftiness, and like you said earlier, like people are trying to mimic the Chiefs. So I think getting a guy like him is just like a really dynamic playmaker. I mean, if you use him right, I think is the thing. Because I mean, he could kind of be like Cordell Patterson, where he just gets bumped around because he's super fast, but nobody knows how to use him right. But I think with the right system, he could be really explosive. And I think what Las Vegas is trying to do right now with like just really youthful, fast kind of offense with Derek Carr behind center, I think that could be a really interesting choice right there for the Raiders.
Good shout.
I like it. All right, so you guys ready for 18 or
Yes,
you
sir.
want to talk about? All right, we got the Dolphins again. If we've learned anything from Miami, they are really good about getting really good draft picks. Now, whether they use them right or not is a different thing, but like we've seen in the past 2 years, they have dominated the first round. This one is difficult because I don't know really where the Dolphins want to go from here. Do they continue to build a high caliber offense, or do they turn their attention to the defense? And so, for me, watching, what they did last season, one of their big struggles was to an extent on the defensive line. They struggled getting push. They struggled rushing quarterbacks. They really struggled stopping the run game. I'm going to say this is probably really wrong and probably really out of left field. I'm going to say they take Christian Barmore from Alabama and really try to harden up those defensive tackles. really try to not just make Miami an offensive team, but they're really going to try and make it an all-around team. And I think Barmore gives you that. I think he's a stud on the line. I mean, watching Alabama as much as I do, he's really good at making offensive tackles and offensive guards look bad. And I think he really helps Miami start to make that defense not a laughing stock. What you guys think?
I think that's. I don't know who they have at defensive tackle. Didn't they? Don't they have another Alabama guy down there? What's his name? They have a. But you're right. They need to address. I think they go defense here, regardless of if it's Barmore or if it's another linebacker. They did lose Kyle Van Noy, so they could go linebacker. But I think you're right. If they go offense the first pick, I think they should go defense the second to kind of balance it out. So I think that's a good pick there.
Yeah, and see, Barmore, he was a redshirt sophomore this year, so he declared early. Isn't that right, Josh?
Yes. He declared early, I think.
So this is actually a really interesting pick, and I was actually wanting to see where y'all thought he might go, and I do like the Miami pick. And honestly, Miami's defense last year kept them in games. I mean, Tua didn't look great at times, but I mean, Miami's defense, like especially their secondary, kept them in games. But yeah, I do like the thought of adding on to their defensive line, just putting more pressure on opposing offensive lines. So I think Armore's got some serious upside. I think he's a little bit of a gamble because I mean, I don't think we've seen as much of him as some other players, but I really think he's got a higher upside than a lot of other guys.
Yeah, I mean, because if you're looking at like the current active rosters, Miami's current active roster, they're on their defensive line. They've got Raekwon Davis. So Raekwon's really good. They've got on their at left defensive end, they've got Christian Wilkins. And so if Barmore doesn't start, he gives them the ability to rotate. And I think that's crucial for Miami is being able to keep their defense healthy throughout the year. Because I don't know how many times we've seen teams crippled when they lose, either a starter or a second string guy. And I think Barmore gives you now, yes, he's a gamble to go this early, but I think he could fit well at Miami. Anything else, guys? We good?
I'm good there.
All right, Trey, tell us who the Washington football team's going to pick.
They're going to pick a new name. Yes. I don't know here because this you get, like I said earlier, you're starting to get into the territory where you start reaching for quarterbacks. The top 5 guys are gone. Kyle Trask is sitting there with his Heisman finalist self. I'm not going Kyle Trask. I'm going Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah out of Notre Dame. He is a linebacker prospect who reminds me a lot of Isaiah Simmons last year. He's a smaller guy. He's 6'2", 216 pounds. Yeah. He's got some versatility in them that I think that Washington can need. And that Washington defense is unreal right now. You've got the Alabama duo in Jonathan Allen and who's the other one? You all know it. I had it in my
now I've completely forgot, so I don't know.
What did you say?
Who'd you say?
Jonathan Allen.
Deron Payne.
Yeah, there we go.
Deron Payne is up there.
So you got those 2 guys on the inside. Then you've got, probably the next great defensive end in Chase Young, and you got another great guy, Montez Sweat on the other side. The linebackers, I don't know who they have currently. I know Reuben Foster had been there for a while, but I think he may not have gotten picked up again. So I think a guy like Koramoah can really strengthen your linebacker core, and he can he can drop back and play some safety if they need him to, or he can get up and play some linebacker. He's a very versatile guy that I think would benefit their defense.
I'm just impressed you were able to pronounce his name, because that's a name.
That's one of the names on this list.
Mhm.
There's some other ones that we're getting to one that's I'm waiting to see who picks this one. That's on the second page right here. Jeffrey, you gonna pick that guy?
The guy from Washington.
No, not that guy. The guy at the top of page 2.
We'll find out. Okay,
Yeah,
we ready?
You go.
Yeah, I'm good.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, the good old Chicago Bears.
Super ears.
Those
Go
horrible
Bears.
people. I think the Bears are just a really bad franchise. Especially right now, they're not good. I think Andy Dalton, isn't he there now?
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
they traded Trubisky to the Bills, or he got released. And now he's at the Bills. Wow, they could
Yeah, they're
go for a
dumpster
quarterback.
fire.
Yeah, it's not good for them. Nothing against Andy Dalton. I think he's a good backup quarterback. I don't think he's starting level. But if Chicago wants to go that route, I can see them doing that. I don't think they would draft Kyle Trask here. I think he's the next best quarterback. I think honestly, I can see Kyle Trask turning into another Trubisky mishap. I just don't know. I can also see them going with Kellen Mond from A&M, right, or Miss State, and yeah, I think he would be a good shout, but I think honestly they need to strengthen their offensive line and just try to ride into next season, hoping for some luck. So I have them going with Alex Leatherwood out of Alabama. That man is giant.
Ooh.
And he's ridiculous. I honestly, personally think he's gonna end up being better than Sewell in the long run.
I like that.
I know he doesn't he have some knee injury problems.
I
He's
mean,
an O
from what I
lineman, so
remember,
I'm
he's
sure
played like just been consistent. Like,
yeah, and so I
Yeah.
think the Bears picking him up, having someone who will lead and be a man for Andy Dalton, just putting his body out there. I think that would be really good for the Bears.
yeah, I would like that pick a lot.
That's an interesting
Yeah,
pick.
I'm kind of upset you took him. But I do like that pick. I think he would. Yeah, that's a good pick.
I make those occasionally, not often. Occasionally.
It happens.
All right, with the
Alright,
21st pick, Indianapolis is on the clock. And honestly, Jeffrey kind of took my pick right there because I was thinking either defensive line, offensive line, or receiver. So going to the other line, I think another guy that's on the board that's just really talented is Azeez Ojulari out of Georgia.
Here we go.
I think the Colts have been focusing a lot on their offensive attack. They got Jonathan Taylor last year. Is absolutely incredible for them. And just getting Carson Wentz at quarterback. You got T.Y. Hilton still at wide receiver. So, I mean, I could really see them getting a receiver right here too, just to add on to some more weapons. But I think a guy like Ojulari, he's just so talented. He's got the 6'3" body frame, 240 pounds. I mean, he's super fast. I mean, he's played at Georgia, and I know none of us here like Georgia at all, but he was a stud for them. So I think him on the line right there is just really good, and I think it kind of gives them some more rotation on the defensive line.
Yeah, I like it. It's a good pick.
That was the name I was referring to earlier as the one that.
Oh,
But yeah, Ojulari, he's a beast. You were correct. I hate Georgia. I think I hate Georgia more than I hate Alabama.
yeah.
Ooh,
I
that's
kind
cool.
of agree. I kind of hate Georgia more than Auburn now. Like they're just getting annoying.
Yeah.
Auburn and Alabama have won a national championship. What's the year, Trevor? The last time Georgia won?
1980, boys.
I think even though he is, I'm looking at this. He's 20.
Yes, I mean he's
Goodness.
young. He was just a
He's
redshirt
young,
sophomore.
but he led the SEC in sacks and tackles for loss and forced fumbles, and so being that young, showing that ceiling at such a young age in a very physical, what's turning out to be a very physical SEC, especially this last year when they only played SEC teams. I think he is ridiculous. He's going to be really good for the Colts.
Okay. You guys ready for 10 OC?
Yep.
All right. So with what is this? 22. We got the Titans. I think I'm gonna take a running back. No, I'm just kidding. Derrick Henry is the Tennessee Titans. I mean,
He really is.
no way around. I mean, the best way and the way they have won for the last while has been line up in the I formation and let Derrick Henry eat. And I think what Tennessee needs to do is they need to continue being able to be a dominant offensive line team. And so I'm going to have the Titans taking Tevin Jenkins from Oklahoma State. I think that he's just, he's going to be really good on that line. I think he's going to give them the ability to just continue building something that makes Derrick Henry be Derrick Henry. They don't need to do anything flashy. They don't need to take receivers. Their defense is good. It's not great, but it's good. But I think Jenkins gives them what they need, which is more offensive line talent.
They got to rectify the mistake that was. I don't even remember his name. The tackle from
Isaiah Wilson.
They gotta rectify that. So they gotta fix that tackle position, and I could see them going receiver here because they lost Corey Davis to the. That's who it is. Corey Davis is on the Jets, which is funny because I have the Jets next.
Yes.
Corey Davis got paid by the Jets, so AJ Brown is a freaking tank. Speaking of tanks, they got two of the, I think, some of the most up and coming players in the league, and obviously Derrick Henry and AJ Brown is. Everyone talks about DK Metcalf, but AJ Brown is something else. But I like your pick there with O-line. Feed old Henry.
See, now my thing was going to be if somebody wouldn't have taken Leatherwood from me and stuck him in freaking Chicago, or he's going to just be terrible because Chicago's terrible. I was going to put him there because if you were to plug someone to Leatherwood's caliber into that offensive line,
it'd be scary.
We saw it with Najee Harris. Najee would run behind Leatherwood 9 times out of 10. You run somebody like Derrick Henry behind an Alex Leatherwood, and hello touchdown every time. But you settle for what you got, and we'll go with that. But
yeah, I think that Jenkins is a really good shout, especially they kind of, even though who's Oak State's quarterback? Is that Ellinger?
It was man, he had like this generic name. I've got to look it up now.
But
Ellinger was Texas's quarterback.
Yeah.
But they had Chuba Hubbard out at Oak State, and he was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so I think Jenkins would, if Leatherwood doesn't fall to Tennessee, I think Jenkins would be a good fit just because he would be familiar with running the ball to a prolific back the entire time. Not that Tannehill does nothing in Tennessee, but Tannehill's not their offense, and everyone knows that. He knows that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Spencer Sanders is the quarterback for Oklahoma State. For anyone
Okay.
wondering, no one was wondering.
No. Okay, Trey, tell us who the New York Jets are going to take.
So I have this. I thought this was going to be a running back, and I was ready to pick the first running back off the board because this is the only place. I know y'all talk about running back at 10. The way the NFL has gone, the way they have underpaid running backs these past couple of years, you're not going to see a guy unless he's a Derrick Henry style running back in college go top 10 anymore. They're just not going to do it because it pays them too much money, and they're just so they go out like clockwork. So I was going to go Najee here, but I noticed someone was falling like crazy, and that is Caleb Farley from Virginia Tech. Now, it makes sense that he's falling because he actually has a back injury that's pretty substantial.
He just had back surgery last month.
Yeah. So, honestly, I almost took J.C. Horn over him, but I'm going to go Farley just because he's got a really good upside. Like he's a ball hawk. He's fast too. I really think he could be a good asset in that Jets team, just getting the best player available and trying to just do something. And Robert Saleh up there has had good track record with corners. I mean, he had Richard Sherman at the 49ers, and he was decent. Now I'm not going to say he was the Richard Sherman of old, but he used what he had. So I'm going Caleb Farley there.
So why not? I really like J.C. Horn. He is probably one of the most physical cornerbacks I've seen play. Why didn't you go for him?
I don't know. I think that's my short answer.
Is it because you hate South Carolina? Is that what it is? Is it because you hate South Carolina?
He's just got a vendetta because of this game this year.
Yeah. But he was ridiculous against Auburn.
He was ridiculous. He made Seth Williams look like
Seth Williams did nothing. So,
yeah, Caleb Farley has a pretty good upside, I think, and J.C. Horn does too. I really think J.C. I would have picked if I would have had the Cardinals up there. I would have picked him up there, but I just went Caleb Farley because he's a better ranked prospect. I guess that's what I'm going to go with. I don't know. I hate South Carolina.
Yeah. Okay. Well, at the 24th pick, I am going to take a running back for the Steelers because big boy James Conner got traded or just signed with the Cardinals, a 1-year deal. And so I think he did a lot of work for them last year. So, man, I want to go Etienne, but I think Najee is the way to go. I think Najee will deliver the most punch straight off the bat. I think Etienne is similar to James Conner. James Conner could do it all. He could receive. He could run straight down the throat of defenses. He could run off tackle. But I think Najee is just, if Najee keeps growing in his talent and size, I think we're going to have 2 Derrick Henrys in the league, and that's going to be horrifying. I think the Steelers.
How much bigger do you want Najee Harris to get? I mean, like, boy is massive.
I know, but so is Henry. But I think Najee would relieve Big Ben. I know I talked about them before. Mac, I wanted him to go there. They do need a quarterback. Big Ben, I think he did say this is his last season. So I wouldn't be surprised if they got a quarterback, but I think Najee would be a steal and a half, especially if he fell, because he honestly, for me, was the second best player in college football last year. I think if there was anyone to dethrone Devontae from Heisman, it would have been Najee. And boy's got hops, and I would love to see him hop in those gold and black pants, just hopping over people.
That sounded so wrong, Jeffrey.
But
Yeah, I
you guys
do
know
like
what I
that
mean.
pick for all though. I think he is honestly a better prospect than ETN. I think people are overvaluing ETN more, but just in terms of like a do-it-all back that's big and physical, and he does kind of resemble Henry a lot. I think that's probably the best running back pick.
Najee,
Yeah,
like, I think he's like Derrick Henry if you combine Derrick Henry and Kenyon Drake. I think with his hand, like it, Boyd caught like so many passes out of the backfield, and I think that's a huge asset because you see guys like Kamara and McCaffrey in the league, and some teams are going to that style of throwing it to the running back out of the backfield, and Najee can do that. We have seen him do that, and you're right, Jeffrey. The boy has hops.
And that wouldn't make
So
Big Ben run around that far, or run around that much more, because he didn't have those legs anymore. He's not going to be.
that's
He didn't have it in
facts.
the first
Yeah,
place. But Najee being back there, even for pass blocking, would be good. Go ahead, Trev.
yeah, I was about to say, he's kind of like Fitzgerald too, though. He's kind of decrepit now, so I don't know how much longer he's going to be kicking with the
that's
Steelers.
fact. Yeah.
So with the 25th pick, Jacksonville's back on the clock. Kind of surprised he slid this slow, but I've got Rashad Bateman as the pick there. He's just a big receiver. Especially if they go quarterback first pick, which I mean, I'm pretty sure they are. So given Trevor Lawrence instant weapons, so Trevor Lawrence to Rashad Bateman, Jacksonville needs a lot. And especially Urban Meyer with him as a head coach there, he's offensive minded. So I think they're going to try to bolster as much as they can there.
I like that pick.
I like it too because I'm really surprised Rashad Bateman wasn't the I mean, I'm going to say here Pitts is a receiver, the fifth guy off the board. Um, he's a beast. Another guy, sadly, there's too many guys on this list I've seen firsthand beat Auburn really bad. I think he had a ridiculous. Was he the one that had the ridiculous catch against us last year in the Outback Bowl, Jeffrey?
Yes, the one in the back of the end zone. Yeah, I think that was him.
I was not watching that game, but I remember seeing it afterwards and them being just, shaking my head.
All right, you guys ready for good old Cleveland?
Cleveland.
I mean, I think Cleveland's one of the. I think Cleveland was the turnaround team of the year for the league. I mean, it kind of seems like, as much as I dislike him, it seems like Baker Mayfield has finally found out how to play football and not be in weird commercials where he acts like the stadium is his house. But but for me, Cleveland, I think Cleveland's going to look for something. More than likely, they're going to look for something on the defensive side of the ball. Possibly, I don't know. But I'm going to give them Joe Tyrone from Washington. I think for an edge guy, he's fairly decent overall guy. Washington had a little bit of up down season this year, but he played consistently, and I think it's just another weapon to add to that side of the ball for Cleveland.
It's an interesting pick. Does the fact that they have, I mean, they just signed Clowney to a deal yesterday. Does that, I don't, not trying to discredit your pick there, but
Well, yeah, and now obviously, with them taking Clowney, there's a side that they decide to do something different. But I mean, Tyrone is 6'5", 262. He's a big dude. I mean, he's a big dude. But I mean, if they don't take him, I'm not really sure what they're looking at wanting to take. And so it's, I don't know. I really don't know enough about Cleveland to completely say what they need, but it always seems to me that Cleveland struggled defensively when they were needing to stay in games this year. Baker was able to keep them in games, and he was able to win them games. but when they lost, it seemed like it came off of a defensive issue. But I do see your thing with Clowney. I don't know. All right, Trey. So they've got Clowney. Who do you think they take?
If this is the board right now, you got to go J.C. Horn.
That's what I was thinking too.
I mean, Denzel Ward is a stud at corner, but then you kind of you solidify the other side because they really. I mean, honestly, I think corner is a huge need for them. They don't really have anybody. Greedy Williams is there, but he's not translated well. Or I mean, he's only how long has he been? Was he a rookie last year? I don't know.
I think he was just picked up last year.
Okay, so I mean, he's got another year to kind of improve his game, and hey, he could be great this year. But I think if the board is sitting like this, I think it's J.C. Horn.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. Horn's probably the better overall pick. I'm just thinking, if Clowney, doesn't pan out to what they're hoping he is.
Oh, absolutely, I agree with that.
But yeah, no, but I'm sticking with what's his name?
Is it Tryon?
No, got me. I pronounced it the best I could.
Jeff
Try Tryon, yeah. Whatever it is.
So I have the Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson. And, if you guys didn't go on a run of receivers earlier, I would have gone receiver here easily. Also, if you all wouldn't have gone on a run of tackles earlier, I would have gone there because Orlando Brown apparently wants out. So I'm kind of sitting here. Rashad Bateman, not Rashad Bateman. Why do I keep saying the wrong names? Not him. Who was I talking about? The receiver from Terrace Marshall. He's still here. I think a guy like Elijah Moore could sneak up the board. I really want to make that pick. But with kind of like my last pick, there's two edge rushers here that are sitting. They're pretty good on top of the board, and they just lost Judon to the Patriots, and there was another guy they lost. Who's the one that came from? There's a guy that they lost that came from the Jaguars to the Vikings, then to the Ravens. And now he's on the Raiders. So I'm going Kwity Paye here out of Michigan. He's a big edge guy in their 3-4 system. I think they could run him at a defensive end, or they could play him at a 3-4 outside linebacker. I think they need to go BPA here, best player available, and I think he's the best player here. So I'd like to go receiver, but there's just not one that I would be willing to take right here.
Sweet. You ready for New Orleans?
So here I'm going to explain. I switched Jeffrey and Josh's pick because Josh likes the Saints, Jeffrey likes the Packers. So I was like, oh, well, I'll just switch the two. So this is why Josh is going next and not Jeffrey.
Okay, so New Orleans is in a very interesting situation. When it comes to where we sit quarterback-wise, we've got Hill and we got famous Jameis. And for me, if we're going to make those guys look good, we need to give them someone to throw the ball to. Now, this is going to sound crazy, but if I'm New Orleans, I'm taking Elijah Moore from Ole Miss.
Good pick.
For the simple fact of I watched him torch the living daylights out of Alabama.
A couple times.
Yes, several times. And he is an all-around really good receiver. And I think he really lights a fire under that offense and doesn't make it the Alvin Kamara show day in and day out. Because if you watch the way defenses attack New Orleans, it's wherever Kamara goes, that's where we're going to go. You start spreading the ball around, and New Orleans is going to become dangerous. And so I think Elijah Moore fits very well into New Orleans.
He'd be the perfect slot guy. Don't forget, they have Michael Thomas, who is a
No, they don't. Do they still have? Who did they get rid of? They got rid of somebody big.
Emmanuel Sanders.
Emmanuel Sanders. That's who they got
Michael
rid of.
Thomas, the slant boy, as Carlton Davis
Yeah.
called them. But that's a good pick there. That's a really good pick. Elijah Moore, I really think he may be the steal receiver of the draft.
So yeah, I would throw him down there.
I'm just
Yes, sir.
curious, Josh. Who do you think is going to be a starting quarterback in New Orleans?
If they go off of what they've seen from quarterbacks, I'm remembering when Hill took over for Breeze, when Breeze like blew his lung out and fractured his rib. He went in the game and he didn't disappoint anybody. And the big thing with him is that he's able to run the ball, and when he gets up, he's fine. And I don't know what Jameis is going to look like. I mean, when the last time we really saw him play was when he was in Tampa, and he tied the
good for touchdowns.
Yeah, he threw the league record for tying in touchdowns and picks. When you go 30 for 30, it sounds like they're going to make a series out of you, but it's really just that you threw 30 picks and 30 touchdowns. Not how we're talking about what happened in your life.
Not ESPN's 30 for 30.
Yeah. I personally do not like that New Orleans even brought him back. I think they should have tried to take a quarterback, but I personally think they should have drafted a quarterback. But when you've got these two guys on roster, you can't. And so for that, you've got to give whoever you're going to make the starting quarterback the best possible chance to do well. And so that's my reasoning for Elijah Moore. But I do think Hill needs to be the starter.
I don't know what the Saints are going to look like without subbing Drew Brees off for Taysom Hill to run the same play 5 times in a row and then him coming off and Drew Brees coming back. It's going to be really weird.
Right. I mean, and it's going to be weird in the fact, too, of not watching Drew Brees rocket the ball 50 yards down the field and Michael Thomas catching it.
Yeah.
Or throwing the ball off for 2 yards and watching Kamara run for 20. The Saints are going to go through it. No matter who the quarterback is and no matter who they take in this draft, the Saints are going to go through a major identity crisis without Drew Brees. And it's going to be up to Sean Payton of how do they respond. If they respond poorly, Sean Payton leaves because he's not going to. He doesn't have to rebuild New Orleans. He doesn't have to. But they're going to go through an identity crisis, and it's going to be interesting to see how they respond.
Yeah. All right.
It's gonna be nice.
All right.
In fantasy though.
Yeah.
It's gonna be really nice in fantasy.
you can't put them in your flex anymore.
Really?
No, because last year you could put him in as your flex position.
Taysom?
Yeah, Taysom Hill.
Yeah.
So that'll be nice. No cheating this year.
Cheating.
All right, Jeffrey. The Packers going to take another random quarterback?
No, Jordan Love is not a random quarterback. He's the star for the future. Just you wait. He is playing under the NFL's best player, most valued player, some might say.
Is Aaron Rodgers, didn't he just get married or just get engaged?
He's engaged, yes, to
he
Cheyenne
engaged?
Woodley.
Yeah. He's also doing a really good job of hosting Jeopardy.
He's doing a really good job. I saw he got roasted by other players.
Yeah, that was tough. Happens to the best of them.
But, I was really surprised. I think I said last year I did the Packers as well. And I said we were going to go for a defensive player because we always go for a defensive player. And when they took Jordan Love last year, I was as confused as I think the Packers were. But I am going to go with a defensive player. And I know we've talked about him. It's really Trey and I have talked about him a couple of times. I'm going to go with J.C. Horn here. I think they need cornerback cover. They haven't had, I would say, a really physically demanding cornerback in a bit. Um,
Jair Alexander would like to have a word. He's like one of the top corners in the NFL, in my opinion.
he's good. I think if you have the physical presence of J.C. Horn, though,
I agree with you because Kevin King is trash after what the Buccaneers did to him. I think this is like if the board falls the way it does and all your receivers go off the board right before the Packers, which would be fitting.
they wouldn't draft a receiver anyways. They wouldn't. What's up, Josh?
With Corey Lindsey leaving,
I also thought about getting an
did you
offensive
think
lineman or
about
a center.
Landon Dickerson?
I did. It was between him, Caleb Farley, and J.C. Horn. I thought Dickerson, after seeing him do cartwheels behind Mac Jones, I thought, wow,
Boy is
that's
awesome.
the man. That's the man I want. And didn't he just get hurt or something? Or just
Yeah,
have
he had
surgery?
knee surgery. He had knee
And
surgery
so
just before. Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's who I want to be protecting Aaron Rodgers for the next year. But I did. I really thought about that. But I think J.C. Horn, if he falls that far, I think any of these last four teams would pick him up just because he is such. He I think will shape the Packers secondary for a while. But yeah.
Good pick.
So at 30, the Bills are picking. So yeah, I think J.C. Horn was gonna be my pick for there, but then I forgot. Zevin Collins out of Tulsa. Did you guys watch that Mississippi State game where they got like into the all-out brawl?
No.
I remember.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So yeah, so he was one of the guys in that. I mean, this guy is really good. He's 6'4", 260. I mean, for Tulsa, I think he was the player of the year in that league or in that conference. I think or defensive player of the year. He's really physical. I mean, he was one of the best highest graded defensive players in the nation. So I think he's an absolute steal. If he doesn't go in the first round, then he would definitely be an early second round steal. But for the Bills, I think they need to address that defensive line. I think they're pretty set on offense. Last year, they put up like really great numbers. So I think looking at the defensive line is a good opportunity to make a deeper playoff run for next year.
All right. No one has anything to say about Zayvon Collins. I think he'll be a very good linebacker. Man. Oh, Kansas City. Man. If I pick anything other than offensive line here, this is the wrong pick. I don't know where to go because I was going to go with a guy like Sam Cosmi or maybe even a Creed Humphrey, but y'all just said Landon Dickerson and made me rethink it. Man.
I think he would lead them well from the front.
Yeah, they signed the guy from the Patriots, one of the guards from the Patriots. I forgot his name. Joe Tooney. So they got a guard. They let go of their top two tackles. So I really think they need a tackle. Looking at the tackles left, you got, like I said, Sam Cosmi from Texas. He's 6'7", 300 pounds. You got Jalen Mayfield from Michigan. You also got a guy that maybe no one's talking about a lot, but Dylan Raduns, I don't know how to say his name, but he's from North Dakota State. 6'6", 304 pounds. I'm going Sam Cosmi here, just sheer size. I mean, this boy's going to have to protect Patrick Mahomes for years to come and help hopefully make what happened in the Super Bowl a distant memory. But I think I don't remember Ellinger ever really having a problem with injuries and getting sacked too much, if I'm not mistaken, in Texas. Am I mistaken? Or does anyone know?
No clue. But I think you're right. Offensive line, they have all the weapons, especially if everyone's healthy next year. It's just after what the Bucks defensive line and linebackers did to poor Patrick Mahomes, that man probably ran 10 miles just running backwards in that game. But yeah, I think anyone would be an improvement on who they had.
You guys ready for the defending champs?
Sadly, yeah.
Sadly.
Okay. What do you do when you have a roster like Tampa Bay? They have done, in my opinion, the best job of any team of keeping a Super Bowl team together. I mean, Tom Brady even renegotiated his contract to keep cap space down so they could keep who they had. But one position that you look at that is dangerously low for Tampa Bay is their safety position. You've got the two dudes you've got back there. You've got Jordan Whitehead and Winfield. In my opinion, that's the only position that's weak for Tampa Bay that you can see. If I were Tampa Bay, I would take the kid from TCU, Trayvon Moorhead, however you pronounce his name. That dude is Gary Patterson, the TCU head coach, talked about him. He said you can line that kid up anywhere on the field, and he's not gonna let a pass go by. If you've watched some of his film, he can do it in double coverage, man coverage. He can play safety. He can play, man to man. He's a stud in the backfield, and I think that's where Tampa Bay needs to go. They obviously don't need a quarterback. They don't need a running back. Their offensive line is good. Their defensive line is good. They've got good linebackers. It's just, and I mean, we saw when Whitehead got hurt, when he got banged up and left, their secondary suffered. And so I think Moorhead is a good bet that's where Tampa Bay may go.
Yeah, you're right. Where do you go? Do you try to shore up the tight end position? Well, no, you don't, because I forgot that they have OJ Howard behind Gronk right now. That's where I would have thought about tight end, maybe receiver behind Godwin and Evans, but I mean you're gonna get Julian Edelman. That's my Trevor take from Trevor. Last year, Trevor predicted Gronk to
No, he really did predict Gronk.
That was
Yeah.
What, that was like 2 days later, wasn't it?
I remember.
Yeah, it may have been a day later. It was quick.
That was like ridiculous. But I'm saying Julian Edelman's gonna go to the Bucks, but that's probably not as like hyped up. I mean, that's gonna happen. Everyone knows it. He's gonna get another ring. But I think safety, you're right. That Murray is pretty good. He's a very Isaiah Simmons like prospect.
All right. Anybody have any final thoughts on this edition? Go for it.
Something I wanna do before we end this.
Okay.
Is there anyone that you think is going to get drafted? Where do you want to see them end up? We're going to call this segment "Anyone Who Hasn't Been Picked." Where do you want them to end up? Very creative title. But like any Alabama players for you guys, any Auburn players for you, Trey. I personally think Jabril Cox will, wherever he lands, is going to be such a big influence on the team because he ran LSU's defense like KJ.
Yeah.
Same with KJ Britt. I think wherever KJ Britt lands, he's going to do a really good job. Even if he doesn't like start, I think he'll still be a rotation player. But I think those two linebackers, I almost said Jabril Cox for the Packers just because I think having somebody like that, since Clay Matthews, we haven't had somebody lead truly in a physical sense in a long time.
I want to see, and what I think is going to happen, I want to see Dickerson in Green Bay.
That'd be good.
I like the Packers. I have nothing against. I mean, the only time um, I've always enjoyed Packers football, and I think Dickerson would really help solidify that line in Green Bay, especially with somebody like Lindsey leaving. And I think and I mean, Jeffrey, with you being a Packers fan, you can agree that whoever y'all get needs to make sure they can protect Rodgers because, Rodgers is the golden child when it comes to anything Green Bay.
Yeah.
And so, the only other Alabama player I can think of that I'm interested, the only other two, Najee, not really sure where he's going to go. You know, personally, I would like to see, personally, let's let New Orleans take him. That backfield would be amazing.
That'd be scary.
Somebody else I'm going to be interested to see where they go is going to be Dylan Moses.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
There's a report out that he underwent meniscus surgery in February, that he tore his meniscus in the Ole Miss game, but played on it all season. Don't know, if that's 100% accurate or not. The school hasn't said anything, but that knee injury, you could see towards the end of the year he was starting to be more comfortable on that knee. And if he's back to his confidence level, he could be dangerous wherever he ends up.
Yeah, definitely. He has some serious upside. I know, like the past 2 years, he hasn't looked very good, and he got hurt the year before. But I mean, he's just got so much talent, and it'd just be like a shame to see him go to waste. But I think if he's in the right situation and maybe get completely healthy, he could be a major steal, like maybe second or third round if somebody could develop him, get him healthy. But yeah, I'm very interested about him.
I want to see, and I know this is going to sound stupid, but I want to see Anthony Schwartz on the Chiefs. I want to see the track meet between Tyreek Hill and Anthony Schwartz. I think that'd be fun. I think he'd fit well. I don't know where I want Seth Williams to go. I want him to be a guy that they can throw deep to and he can catch it like he did again and go up for the ball like he did against Kentucky. He literally owned that man. That corner is dead. He's deceased. But I want Seth Williams to go, I don't know, maybe to see a team like Buffalo taking him and Josh Allen and throwing it up to him outside of Stephon Diggs, maybe. Who are the other Auburn players in this draft? I want Christian Tutt to, go play in the CFL. Yeah. So Anthony Schwartz to the Chiefs is mine.
Okay. I don't. You guys pretty much named all the players I was thinking. So one more thing. I know I said one more thing last time. I think this would be fun. Tops and flops. That's a better name for this.
Ooh.
That's more creative. I like
that. So out of the 32 players we pick your number one who you think is just going to be, out of all of them, who's going to be a standout. And we can agree, we can disagree. And who you think someone named that you're like, Shots, that's not it, buddy. You should rethink that. But Josh, you want to start us out?
Yeah, sure. I think let's see. Somebody I think that probably is going to be better than anyone's expecting is I think Waddle's going to come out of the gate mad because he didn't get to play the season he wanted to, and he's going to be itching to show that he's still Jalen Waddle. And I think he comes out of the gate blaring as a workhorse. Flops. I'm gonna say Wilson from BYU. I'm gonna say that Jets magic continues and he just falls apart. It's gonna be sad to watch, but I say he falls apart.
Yeah, Good job. Trevor, who do you have?
I'm gonna start with my flop. So it's okay. So I don't have very much faith in Kyle Trask or the kid from North Dakota State, Trey Lance. To me, for some reason, Trey Lance kind of feels like, do y'all remember Deshaun Kaiser? Like probably 2015 class. I think is he still in Green Bay right now?
I'm not sure.
I know he got traded because I think the Browns drafted him and then they traded him away to Green Bay. But anyways, he kind of feels like the same kind of quarterback. I don't know. They just seem underwhelming, and I just haven't been very high on them. I don't know enough about them really to have like a valid argument for them or against them. But I think Trey Lance or I don't know. I'm just not high on them. But in terms of a breakout player, we talked about them a lot. I think Elijah Moore is going to be insanely good. Like wherever he goes, I think he can go to any team and make an immediate impact. And he's just speedy. I don't know. We talked about him. He burnt Bama twice, and it just makes you pull your hair out. So I think he's going to be a very good player.
I'm with those for sure. Mine would probably. I'm gonna start with my flop too. I think I agree. Trey Lance. I'm not on the hype train. Um, I get he's an athlete. People are comparing him to Cam coming in, but I just don't think he'll have what it takes to come into the NFL and be as good. Be a top. I forgot where we picked him, but top 32 pick, for sure. But my person I think is going to exceed expectations. Not even exceed expectations. I think they're going to fit very well. I think Leatherwood is going to change the Bears if he goes to the Bears or wherever he goes. I think he's going to be like such an impact player that they're just going to be like, why? How is this team so bad the year before, and how are they so good? And he's just going to be the silent key in the cog that just keeps it running and keeps it going. I think if he ends up in Baltimore, if he ends up in Tennessee, if he ends up at the Bears in Chicago, I think wherever he goes, he's going to be such an important player for years to come for that organization. Trey, who you have?
Um, I'm gonna go out of left field here. I think with all the hype surrounding this dude, Kyle Pitts may not be as big as people think. I really, in this whole segment, the top or flop, like it's made for bad takes, and this I see this one being a bad take down the road, but I just think people are looking so much into this dude, and there's so little room for error for him. So I can really see a guy like Kyle Pitts really not exceeding expectations because those expectations are so high. I so desperately wanted to put Mac Jones here, but I couldn't. He's going to be a good NFL quarterback. Hot take here, he'll probably be the best quarterback of the three quarterbacks that were at Alabama. Josh, are you agreeing with me?
The way that Mac plays, yeah, he's got the chance to be the best of out of the Hurts to Mac trio, out of that quarterback. It's crazy to think at one point they all three shared a quarterback room. But out of that quarterback room, I do think that Mac has the chance to be the best quarterback Alabama has seen in the league in a while.
Yeah. For my top, I think I mentioned it earlier. I think Elijah Moore has a really good chance to sneak into that first round and be another Ole Miss receiver that got underrated that was ridiculous in college. He joins DK Metcalf and AJ Brown. I think if you put him in the right system, shoot, the Saints would be perfect. He could run the slot like crazy. Another guy, J.C. Horn. I think if he fell, he would have a chip on his shoulder. I think he really would be a good fit anywhere. So those are my two tops, and I think I'm gonna live to regret that Kyle Pitts pick. there. But I'm
Yeah,
gonna,
we need to clip that out so we can play it for you.
Yeah, we're gonna clip that out and put that on a like an airplane to let it just fly around your house at night.
Yeah.
are we gonna play that clip the next time we meet on the quad pod? Because that's probably gonna be next year's draft.
Look, well, we
Yeah.
should probably try and not do this every year, but like maybe do something. Maybe we could do like a draft reaction, and see how we did. But
But just like a 3-minute video of us watching Jerry Jones on his boat.
facts. That's all we need. I want to see Jerry Jones and who is with him.
He's
Yeah.
gonna drive his boat to Cleveland.
Yeah, it'd probably, and he'll fly his boat to Cleveland.
Oh man,
That would be
we're about to hit the point of the year where sports are sparse, and I can't stand Major League Baseball. So it's gonna be.
How do you
rough summer.
not like baseball?
It's so slow.
Just want to let you guys know that Alabama just took a walk-off homer to beat Auburn in college baseball. So
Auburn baseball this year has literally been some of the worst, like heartbreak. Like they've lost more games by like 1 or 2 points than I've ever seen. It's ridiculous.
also just saw that Shackelford is going to enter the NFL draft.
But
He's going to
NBA
go in
draft?
there. The NBA draft. He's going in without an agent, but he's gonna
He'll
go
come
in
back.
the draft.
Back.
So we shall see.
Yeah.
But anybody have any final thoughts?
Not on the NFL draft. The
Not on the
NBA
NFL.
draft we could get into, but
Ooh,
that's
we
for
may
another
want to do an
time.
NBA draft, a mock draft, because we all have a player in the game this year. Welcome to the club, Alabama fans. We've been waiting on you.
Thank you.
For, a few years.
Bro,
We're,
we had
very
Sexton
thankful.
like 2 years ago.
What?
Yeah.
We had Sexton
We had
2 years
Sexton.
ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sure.
We are very thankful that His Highness Nate Oates is gracing us with his presence in Tuscaloosa.
Very much that.
The Brian Harson
Okay,
lookalike.
I think we should end with a hot take.
Hot take.
Who's
Okay.
better? And then after this we're done. Who's better? Who would win head to head with a even level team? Nate Oates, Bruce Pearl.
What? So what do you
Notes.
mean? What's the criteria? Like,
Are we saying
The
like 2019
Same
Auburn?
caliber team. Same caliber team. So like, sure, Auburn's Final Four run, Alabama's Elite Eight run. Or
we had a
16,
lot of players
was it?
injured. I mean, like at the beginning of the year. I mean, like we had like 2 guys tear ACLs. So I don't know. I mean, if we're talking about next year's team, I would take Bama straight up. Because I mean, I feel like that's
not
kind of
the
evenly
team.
matched.
The coaches.
Oh, coaches? I'm taking
Probably Bruce or Nate.
I'm taking Nate. He's a math teacher, man. You don't mess with math teachers.
Yeah. I'm taking the simple fact of how he's able to. I'm taking the fact of before those guys are allowed to leave practice, they have to hit like 90 3-pointers in 5 minutes. I'm taking his coaching style over Bruce Pearl.
I will say this about Bruce Pearl. He has grown a killer beard. I mean, like
That is facts.
Like,
Quarantine
What a
beard is looking good.
It's great.
So great.
yeah, like I'm not a fan of his per se, but his beard game is on like Mars right now.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
I don't know about y'all, but I like a good barbecue. And I like a coach that can throw a great barbecue.
What?
So,
I'm so confused.
okay, so Pearl
Are we
got,
talking?
Pearl
Are we
got
talking about those? Are we talking about those parties that Saban throws for all the new recruits at his lake house?
where he gives out the cars? No. This was
He doesn't
this
give
was
out cars.
This was when Pearl was at Tennessee. He got in trouble for doing, I think, a barbecue for recruits and stuff like that.
Oh, I was
I-
like, what is this innuendo?
I thought that
man?
joke would hit a little better. We're gonna cut this stuff out.
No, we're
No,
not.
leave
That's
it,
so
leave it.
staying in.
No, we're keeping the Mike Tyson. If it's staying at the beginning, this is staying too.
Nice Dyson.
So you going Bruce?
Oh,
Trey?
100%. I'm
I
going.
have
Some
something.
weird
Has
barbecue comment.
Nate Oates' house been on The Bachelor? No. You know whose house has been? Bruce Pearl. Boom. Bruce Pearl automatically I don't care about coaching style. Bruce Pearl takes it, and he's Jewish. Nate Oates is white, so wins that category too. And who has the killer beard? Bruce Pearl. 3 out of 3 mandatory categories for a great person.
I mean, I don't know about great person, but I mean, yeah, I'll give you the beard.
Yeah, I'll give you the beard. I don't know if he's a good person, but
No, he's a great person.
Sure.
Granddaddy Bruce is amazing.
Nate Oates wins the contest for being able to change a culture in 2 years.
Oh no, Bruce came in and did that, but it took him a little bit longer. But Alabama, you guys for real have changed from being a mediocre SEC team to arguably the best team in the SEC this year. Obviously, the best team by far. But all right, I think.
All right.
That
I think
ends it for
we're
us.
done. I think we're done for this episode of the Quad Pod.
We will hopefully see you guys sooner than
Yeah, hopefully it
A
won't be another
year?
year before we see you guys again.
might be fun for another year, a yearly reunion,
Yearly reunion, yeah.
Anyone have
Where
anything they want to shout out before we dip? Anybody? How are you guys doing? Haven't seen you guys in so
good.
long. Good?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Hey, where'd you go, Trey?
Nowhere.
All right. Well, until next time, stay beautiful and War Eagle.
War Eagle, man.
It's gonna be a
That's
fat
kinda
roll
works.
tide from that's kind of terrible. It kind of makes me want to throw up a little bit, but see you guys later, and let's get a big roll tide. Gonna get us another natty this year.
Exactly. Hey, basketball and football championship.
Yeah, we
schools.
we going double natties this year. We're going double natties. So
Not equestrian. Not
Woo,
equestrian.
woo!
What about the
sorry,
bass?
that's the
What about the bass fishing team?
Hey, they're back up. They're back up.
See you next year.